everyone. All right, this is one of my art journal stencils for faces. This was based on the cover of an art journal that I painted several years ago. I think I've sold this journal already, so I don't have the original, I don't think, to show you. Someone recently purchased this stencil and asked me how to use it. They said that they'd never used a stencil like this before. I don't really know the particulars about that. I didn't ask. But I thought I would just do a couple of quick little examples. You can use stencils in a ton of different ways. I use my stencils with pretty much anything. So, and by that, what I mean is acrylic paint, watercolor, ink pads, spray inks. I use my stencils for all of that. This particular stencil is a 3-piece stencil. Now again, like I said, this was based off of a painting that I did on the cover of an art journal, and then I came back in and turned that into a stencil. And as I was doing that, I had the option to kind of connect the eyes into it, which would be, you know, kind of like what I did here. The eyes are kind of built into it. But in this particular case, I really liked in the original painting the darkness within the eyes. So I opted, instead of having the eyes built in, to disconnect them. So that's what you see here. I just disconnected the little eye itself and have those as little separate pieces so that you can work on this in a layered manner. You do not have to. You can put the eyes in place. Let's see. You can put the eyes in place and use it just like a regular stencil, just like this. Whoops, I didn't get that quite in line, but it'll be fine. You can use it just like that. You don't have to separate, to keep the eyes separate or separate them on purpose. So we'll just do it like this for this first application. And I'm just going to use a spray ink or two. Let's see, what do I have here? I've got a pink and a blue from Dilutions, and then I think I'll throw in a little bit of a Distress Oxide as well. And I don't usually spray paint or use sprays just straight on my desk like this, so bear with me a minute, let me get something. Okay, so usually when I'm doing sprays, I spray into a box. This is a small box. So going to put it down into the box like so, and then fold up my cover paper. This is just to keep this side here from getting covered. If your box is too small like mine is, it's lifting up the bottom here, I can just, that's why I like this box. I can just take it apart. Hang on a minute. So what I did was the bottom just folds out. That way it lays flat in here and I can spray right into it. So let me move some things, the sprays out of the way. To where you can easily see it. There we go. So let's see what happens with my sprays. I have not used these in a long time, so no expectation that it will even work well. Oh yeah, it works fine. Okay, so I like to layer color in the same manner that I would layer paint or anything else, frankly. So that's the second color. And then I like these little distress sprays because I get really weird results, and I like all things weird. Hopefully this works. Yep. Okay, so you can use spray inks and you can use the eyes just exactly as they are. I'm going to lift this out. Do it this way. So there you go. That's how you can use it with a spray ink with the eyes in place. Now I'm going to take the eyes off. And keep in mind, I haven't cleaned this. Let me get my little piece of paper back here. Let me get these eyeballs off really quickly. And I forgot my hands are going to get covered with ink, but that's okay. So this one, because it is important that you go ahead and clean your stencil off, especially if you're going to use it a second time and you have all that on there, all that, and I have a lot of that going on. So I like to take an old brush. This is my glue brush, basically. So I'm just going to take my glue brush and I'm going to just make sure it's kind of not super running, but definitely wet. And just carefully make a mess. Now if this doesn't turn out, if it's all like bleeds under and you know you can't really, it's not, the face isn't recognizable, it doesn't matter, because I actually have more pages that I can work with. Yes, I'm being a little facetious. You have to be brave. You have to be brave in art journaling, in art making at all, period. You have to be brave. So this time I did not put the eyes in place, as you can see. Oh yeah, it did make a mess, didn't it? Okay, so that's one way that you can use it, which is with spray inks. Hang on a second and let me clean my stencil off real quick. Okay, so that was spray inks and then just using a damp or wet paintbrush. Another way to use the stencil, obviously, is just to stencil paint down. I like to use these makeup sponges, and I use the thicker, heavier ones. There are like ones that look more spongy and they're much softer, but they kind of are a little bit messier in the actual application because there's a lot of larger holes. They hold a lot more moisture. I like the compact, heavier ones better. Again, you can use absolutely any medium you want to. So for instance, this is just permanent ink. So we'll do a little of this. And again, here I'm not putting the eye in place for this part of it. You can ink as much or as little. As you want. So inking it, you get a much crisper application than you did with the spray inks. My tape got water on it. So that's, you know, using actual ink for the application. I also just trim these until it's clean again, and reuse them until they get too small to cut down. say you want to use those same spray inks that we used before, but you want it to be a much neater application, you can just spray your ink onto something else. So in this case, I'm going to spray it right onto this paper that I used earlier. And you can use it just as if it was, you know, ink from an ink pad. Although obviously I did not put enough down. And again, it'll be nice and crisp still. Not as crisp as the permanent ink, but still pretty good. And then finally, as I think would be quite obvious, let me just pick a color here. Let's do a dark green. Or a bright green, I guess. Same thing, any kind of acrylic paint, doesn't matter. I like craft paint for my art journals. I'm not even gonna clean the color off of it. I'm just going to pick up this green. And then just look and make sure that I haven't missed any areas. And there you go. So that's another way that you can use the stencils. Now, if you want to get your eyes back in, typically I do, I leave my stencil attached and I put my eyes in place. You can kind of feel when you have it in the right position. It's kind of like working a puzzle. I'm sure most people have worked a puzzle at some point in their lives. Once you have your eyes back in place, in this case, I opted for darker colors in there. So what I'm going to actually do is come in with white acrylic paint. Let me get some of that mysterious product. And this time I am going to clean the color off real quick. So again, it's just a regular sponge and just some white acrylic paint. And I'm just going to very carefully put that paint over top of those two little eyes. So now when I lift it, I can see her eyes so that I can continue to work. Another way that I will do this is not put the eyes in at all until later, which you'll see on the other ones that we did. I think we left one. What did I do with that paper? Yeah. So on this one, I left intentionally, did not do the eyes here at all. So we'll do those in a minute. All right, so let's take this off. And the magic of the internet, I'm going to dry everything. All right, so now we have 3 faces that are all works in progress. What you choose to do with the face from there on out is clearly up to you as the artist. I will show you just a few quick examples of the different things I would do. So in this case, I know that the black is a permanent ink, the green is an acrylic paint, And the pink is a spray ink that is water soluble, which means it will move. Both of these will move with water. I like messy stuff, and I design my stencils for me to use, and then I sell them if people ask for them, but they are in, you know, the design of them, the use of them is based on what I, as the artist, want to have happen. So I really like to make messes and kind of play with different concepts as I'm going along. In this particular case, I'm just going to paint with all of this color and just kind of play around with that fact that it kind of had those lines where I didn't get the eyes quite in place when I was doing the spraying. And remember, I mentioned that. I knew I had done that. I'm not a perfection. I'm not motivated by perfection. I know some people are, and that's fine. We all are entitled to, you know, make art and see life in the way we want. I don't see a lot of perfection. I like messes, so I'm just gonna make a few little messes and just kind of play around with different ideas. That's part of why I like to use stencils, is because they tend to be imperfect, so they tend to leave room for experimenting. If you get my meaning there. The more perfect a supply is, the less inclined I am to experiment with it. And I'll give you an example where I see it happening with other people. Although they may have different motivations or reasons behind what they, you know, what they're seeking. I'm not seeking perfection. So, but someone else might intentionally be seeking that. But anyway, it's kind of off topic. As an example, I like to kind of use odd colors, have odd things happening. My tagline is weird but beautiful because I like weird things. I like to do weird stuff. I like to play and experiment, and I don't mind if it doesn't turn out with, you know, whatever expectation I may have had. I try not to have any expectations, frankly. That way I can feel more free to experiment. Okay, so I'm gonna move over to this one, and I'm really kind of gonna do the same thing. I'm playing with the features and with what's happening otherwise. And when there's weird stuff going on, I will embrace that weird stuff instead of trying to make it be something other than what it is. I know. I don't know if that really makes a lot of sense or not. Okay, I'm just shading using this, the fact that this color is not permanent, not entirely permanent, to sort of carve out the face. And usually, if I don't like the hairstyle on the stencil, I will not spray through the hair. In these examples today, I did go ahead and spray through all of the hair, but It's not a requirement. And also too, now that I think about it, this one is moving a lot easier, and getting more individual colors. I used a paintbrush to move this sort of leftover stuff around, so that's why it's not moving as much. Plus I don't have that much water on this brush now. Okay, so that's getting those two started going. I'm going to set them aside and let them dry. I have a little too much water right here, so I'm going to pull water back off just by wiping my brush off a little bit on a paper towel, and then just lifting some of the excess water. Okay, I'm going to set this aside to dry and come to this one. Now again, like I said, two of the colors are permanent, one color will move around. I'm going to do the lips completely different on this one. And then you can move some of this pink, again, like I said, because it wasn't a permanent color. And you kind of, with this format, because there's like sort of a combination of permanent and not permanent, you don't have to worry as much that you might, you know, like lose a feature or something like that, because most of that is permanent. So you don't really have to worry as much about it. All right, so I'm just giving her color, just a hint of color from this pink, and kind of picking it up and moving it around a bit. And then with her hair, I think I'm going to get, let's see, I think we'll go for some like extreme drama. So I'm gonna go to a brush that is not a watercolor brush. And I'm going to go with a dark paint color, a charcoal gray in this case. And let's see. Let's go. She kind of like, this part here looks a little odd, just that it's the red. So I'm gonna just cover up the red. Just giving her some wild hair. She kind of looks like a model from like the 70s. There you go. Crazy. Okay. Crazy funny. While we have this color out, I'm going to get a smaller detail brush and put my glasses on so I can actually see what it is I'm doing. And I'm going to get this charcoal paint, and I'm going to come into where the pupil should be and darken that up. Now on this side it was already dark, but over here it's not dark at all. So I'm going to get that pupil in there. out of paint here. And then just make a bit of a mess. We get a little water and just kind of on the side here. Okay, that done. I'm going to choose eye color, and because I am who I am, I have blue-green eyes. I love to paint blue and green eyes just because that's my eye color. So when we did this, we put the white in, so the actual color that you want to use for the iris is really easy because you've kind of got this white already here, and you can just tint it with a little bit of water and paint. And of course it can be as opaque as you want. That's entirely up to you. Did I just run this right here through? Yeah, no, I ran my hand through it. Okay, so now she kind of has green eyes. See how like quick and easy it is to sort of, you know, feel like you've got a complete face. It's, you know, that's the thing about stencils. If you don't want to draw your face, you don't want to start, you know, basically I use them when I'm feeling kind of either lazy or when I want to push myself out of my comfort zone. Working with a stencil like this, it's very much, can be anyway, very much a challenge and sort of pushing yourself out of that, you know, doing the same face that you always do or whatever you're looking for. They can be very versatile. You still should draw faces, learn to draw faces if you like to paint, you know, put faces in your journals. If you don't, then who cares? I like to paint pottery, and I didn't know how to paint pottery when I started painting pottery, but I didn't let that stop me either. Anyway, I'm just adding more of that red that was the original spray ink. Just adding, painting right out of the lid, the cap from that spray ink there that we used for the rest of the face. And this area was still wet, so it'll keep sort of moving around and doing whatever weird things it wants to do. Okay, so that is, it's that quick and easy, very, you know, like just a couple of little things that you add on, and suddenly, you know, you kind of have this face practically done. I am going to come in and give her some eyebrows because she sort of doesn't have any right now. They're there, but they're not, there's nothing really dark, and her hair is really dark, so it doesn't look like she has any, but now it looks like she has one. And we'll give her a second one here. And that's, you know, it's that easy. It's that quick, fast and quick. It's that much fun. Anything like to any degree that you want to get, you know, you can continue working your painting, your girl's face. to whatever degree of detail you like to impart onto your faces. I am going to get a detail brush, even smaller one, and some bright white gouache. And I'm going to pop a bright highlight in here. And I'm going to brighten up just a little bit of the whites of her eyes, but not a bunch, just a little. And that's pretty much it. That's all I'm going to do. I am going to pretend like she has earrings. So using that same detail brush, I'm going to get a metallic paint. It's just a metallic watercolor. And I'm just going to pretend like there is a little bit of an earring kind of hidden with her hair, hidden behind her hair, so that you just don't quite know, you can't quite see it all. But sometimes you can just suggest and get away with that. That's the beauty of art and painting. Okay, one down. Two to go. Okay, so these two are kind of starting to dry. I'm going to come in here and kind of do that same sort of thing that I was doing with the other one. I think this time though I'm going to get colored pencil. Mostly just because I want you to see like a variety of different ways in which I would finish them out. So again, here I'm going to pull the pupil out and darken it a bit, and play with the upper eyelid. And hopefully not get my hands in anything. And I will completely change anything about the face I want to. Like, I don't have to do the eyes the way they originally were. I don't have to stick to anything. I can just do whatever I want. And you can too. That's the point. It's not to make a perfect copy of the original stencil all the time. Like, you can, obviously, if you really like the face and you just enjoy using it, but you don't have to. That's the thing. Like, there's no rules, there's no right or wrong. You can't do it wrong. You can only do what you do and then decide if you like it or not. That makes sense, hopefully. If you don't like it, start over. Do another one. Flip the page. Paint over this. Collage over it. Whatever. Let's see. I'm going to leave the rest of that. Well, actually, I am going to put in shading. Pretty heavy shading for this girl. Pretty heavy shading. And then I'm going to change the eyes around quite a bit. I'm going to come in with my paintbrush. As I said before, this was, all of this was with a non-permanent ink. So I can come in and move all of that around, which I'm going to do. Make a real mess out of it. Mostly just because I like to. There's no rhyme or reason. I just like to play. All right. I am going to leave her with these kind of odd pink sort of colored eyes. I'm going to outline the iris though. This particular colored pencil, yeah, Premiere Pro, whatever. Anyway, I can't think of the name of it. What is the name of these? Prismacolor Premiere. My goodness. The black, when you're working on something that's wet, it tends to get kind of melty. I kind of like that. It can be fun. So I'm just going to come in now with white. Just as I did before, I'll start out, just getting a little mix here. I'll start out with a nice bright highlight in the iris over the pupil, but then I'm going to come in and I'm going to layer this in pretty thickly over top of that pink. Yeah, like that. But then I'm going to rinse my brush off, and it's just going to be damp, and I'm actually going to turn it over, and I'm just going to touch into the top, the very top of that, and pull some of that white up. And because there's water on my brush, it's not going to pull that up as solid white. It's going to break it down a little and fade it a bit. Same thing over here. So it kind of softens the effect, and you just can kind of just play around a little bit with it to get just what you want. I'll turn it back around. There you go. And then if you want like to add additional color or something into the iris, you obviously can. I'm quite happy with the way she turned out as it is, so I'm not going to bother. And then I'm going to get a really thirsty mop sort of type of brush. And use, I think, Rose of Ultramarine, a little bit of Amazonite Genuine, and some Cobalt Blue, I think. So I'm going to get the Rose of Ultramarine, and we'll start with this one. Need more water. I didn't pre-wet these. Wasn't thinking about it. More of that over here, I think. And then the Amazonite Genuine is kind of like a blue-green. A little Cobalt Blue. And I did kind of mix this Cobalt with the Amazonite, the blue-green already on my, or still on my brush. So. And that area right there, this bangs right here, there's some weird stuff going on. It looks like there must have been a drop of something clear that won't take the paint. It happens. It is not the end of the world. Okay, I'm gonna leave that one alone. I'm gonna come over to this one over here, and I'm going to start out on this one, I think, using a combination of colors from ink brushes. So I'm going to come in over here, and again, I kind of really didn't change her hairstyle on any of these. It is what it is. So I'm going to start out with just bringing pure ink in. And like I said, I did pick 3 different colors. And I'm going to use my paintbrush now. It's rounded right there. Anyway. I'm going to take my paintbrush now. Again, that same large kind of mop shaped paintbrush. And I'm just going to play with this paint, or ink in this case, and water. And if you want to do, you know, like faces that are like, you know, you have a hint of just a silhouette of a face or whatnot, you can use this without doing the eyes and get, you know, kind of get that effect. Although anything that has eyes that doesn't have the eyes freaks me out. Always has. I don't know why. So I couldn't leave it like this. It would make me a little crazy. Okay, I need to let that sort of dry and do its thing. While I'm waiting, I'm gonna get my eyes back from my stencil. Number 1 and number 2. So I can put eyes in, but first I'm gonna have to do the whole magic of the internet thing again and dry these. Okay, now that they're dry, or reasonably dry, I'm going to put my eyeballs in place. Let's see. The tape is like, doesn't really have any oomph anymore. This one's not as easy to determine if I've got it in the right place, but hopefully they're in the right place. You can go about putting, you know, like adding these eyes however you want. In this case, I'm just going to come in. I'm actually going to use a black marker and just going to hit around where the pupil will be, and a little bit under where the whites of the eyes, or outlining the iris. Then I'm going to come in with white pen. Okay. Oh, and I forgot. I'm gonna do a little of this because this is just the crease in the upper eyelid. So I'm gonna get a little of that, and then I'm going to, again, because I am like a child with green eyes and blue eyes, I'm going to put green in the iris, and I'm going to use a darker green just in the upper corners. There we go. Oops, I made a mess. It was the marker. I probably should have used just a pencil. That's all right. Okay, so I'm just gonna use my pencil, clean up my mess that I made. Did not intend to make that mess, by the way. For purposes of showing you how to use it, I should have just used black ink. Oh well. All right, so then I'm just gonna get the upper part of the, you know, the upper eyelid, the lash line, really. Draw out a few eyelashes. Shade the eye. And then I've got to let this marker dry here for a minute before I can come in and fix the whites of the eyes. I'm also going to play around a little with the nose. And eyebrows. And I think I'm going to add some of this pink in for her lips. Too much water, so I'm just pulling some back. see, over here with this girl, I'm going to actually work some Quin Coral into this face. And because I'm working with a with a spray ink, with spray inks to begin with, when I first did this face, everything is still going to move as I'm working on it. Even the blues, like there, you know, everything's gonna move. So you have to kind of know that and paint accordingly, frankly. Just go. And the white that I applied, I added water. It was a little too much water, so it washed it all out, so no big deal. I'm just gonna come back in and put that white back in again. Over here, I made that big mess with the marker, so I have to work a little harder to cover all that mess up. And this girl as well will get some bright highlight. Looks good. I like it. So as you can see, it really is just pretty darn easy to use these stencils with a ton of different mediums, and you can end up with wildly different faces all from that same stencil. It's all just about how you play, how you like to play, what sort of look and feel you enjoy in your art. Here she had, remember she had that little dot of white paint that was acting like a resist. it's wet still, so the pen doesn't want to write on it. But anyway, you can really kind of play around with all that stuff. You can also come back in with white paint and clean up things you don't like. So because it's important for you to see things happen instead of just hear about things, I'm going to try to show you. Wait, that's not. There we go. So I can just come in with white paint. If I don't like that harsh line that was there, I can just soften that. Same thing here. With that, it's moving the blue around, so I'm actually going to purposefully sort of play with that. Just soften that up a bit. So yeah, nothing, obviously, nothing is permanent when it comes to this kind of thing. You can always just use acrylic paint to soften things. I also will use white paint markers, like a Sharpie white paint marker, or white gouache, depending on the effect and the amount of coverage that I want. I can even camouflage that dot a little by just using white paint to kind of bring in some highlights. Whatever you want to do, it is entirely up to you. But hopefully you have a little bit better of a feeling of how you can use these stencils. Obviously, these stencils are not intended for you to do things like heavily scrape over them to, you know, use them with like heavy texture. You can't go like this with your brush over top of the stencil and expect that you're not going to, you know, cause it to lift or whatever. Otherwise, I'm really not sure what else to demonstrate as far as using stencils in your art journals, or in particular how my stencils would be any different than any other stencils that you're using. Anyway, the 3 examples as to how you can use the stencil and with different mediums. I hope this helps you.